everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Summer. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I do my root touch-up and baby lights so you guys can follow along for an easier at-home application, so let's get right to it. All right, it's been a minute since I filmed doing my own color, but I just took my extensions out because they were ready to be moved up and I need to do my roots and touch up some areas with some baby lights before putting them back in. So I figured why not film it? So we're just gonna get myself draped and then mix up my color. So I am using Pravana's 7N in 743 with 20 volume. I'm doing 0.6 ounces of 7N and 0.4 of the 743. My roots tend to grab a little hot, so the N helps balance that out. And then Pravana is mixed 1 to 1.5, so I did 1 ounces of color, and I'm gonna do 1.5 ounces of developer. Okay, so now that my color is mixed up, before I apply, I wanna make a note, I always start with putting my roots on first and then I highlight. I don't like to highlight first and then apply my roots. This is also key if you are new to doing this. You're gonna be slower. You don't want that lightener sitting on your hair for any longer than it needs to. And if your roots sit on your scalp for too long, it's not gonna cause you nearly as much of an issue, really at all, compared to the lightener sitting on. So to start off my roots, I just take a little bit on my brush, not a ton, and I'm gonna apply it just directly onto my regrowth. So I don't have a ton of root right now. I'm only maybe 4 or 5 weeks out. But time frame, it just worked out for me to do my color now. So I'm really trying to only get it directly onto my new growth. I don't want to overextend. That's even more important if you have a lot of blonde highlights. Like I said, I haven't highlighted my hair in a while, so it's not quite as severe. So once I do my front part, I'm gonna come in with my comb or my brush, not my comb. I'm gonna pull this hair forward, take a little bit of color again, and you can even pull this hair back if you want, and then apply. Okay, and then we're gonna do our front hairline piece. A little bit of color, and apply. Try to be as clean as possible along your hairline. It's quite annoying to try to get the color off of the scalp because it will stain, but you can also apply either like a lotion or an oil onto your skin right around your hairline on the scalp, and that helps prevent the color from grabbing as much to your skin. And then we're gonna do the same thing over here. Pulling my front hairline back and applying. Okay, so now that we have our front perimeter done, we'll get to the back a little bit later. Usually when coloring my own hair, I don't really worry about my back as much as the front just because nobody sees it. But so now that I have my two pieces here separated, I'm just gonna come right in, take my first section, pull that up. We're gonna flip our hair down, reapply right on the part line. Flip it over, get more color on your brush, and then apply. So basically you wanna coat both sides, top and bottom of your section, just so that way you're getting the most coverage, especially if you have gray hair. I mean, any hair type, but the grays really show right away if you don't get them fully covered. So next section, I'm not taking a piece that's too thick or thin. We're gonna flip it back over, hit it, flip, and apply. And then you're just gonna continue doing this same pattern as you move through your section. Again, not too big of pieces. Make sure that you're coating the top of the section and then again on the bottom once you flip it over, so that way you're getting the most amount of coverage. And again, you don't want to over saturate your brush. You don't need a ton of color on it. It spreads easier than you think. There's no point in wasting any product at all. Typically for a retouch, you don't need any more than about an ounce to 1.5 ounces of color. So keep that in mind when you are buying your color from the store, Sally's, wherever it is that you get it. And then obviously if you have crazy thick hair, you might need more than that. But start off with mixing just 1 to 1.5 ounces at first. And then once you've done that, you're just gonna flip your hair back over using the end of your brush, and you're gonna move on into the other side. And again, remember, apply to both the top and bottom of each section. Okay, so now that we have done our fronts, we're gonna move on to the back, which is always such a fun part. It's a lot harder to do on yourself, so that's why when I'm doing my own color, I don't worry if it's quite perfect in the back. I do want to make sure that I get my hairline here, so when the hair is pulled back, you don't see your regrowth. So as long as you're focusing on applying to your hairline and in the crown area, you're usually pretty good until you can get into the salon or have somebody help you apply it. So to do that back side, I'm just gonna lift my hair like in a pony almost, take my brush and apply right along my hairline. And I'm gonna do the same on the other side. Okay, so now that we have that back hairline done, I'm just gonna kind of re-separate my two front side sections from my back and push that hair forward. Also, clipping it up helps too, just to give you a little bit more control. And then you can either split this right down the middle and create a section, same as you did for your front sides, and apply along your part line. As best as you can, this is the most difficult part of applying your own roots, but you can do that to separate two pieces, or what I like to do is just come right in at my crown, lift it, hit that top part, flip it over, and hit that bottom part. Now, I am very messy. I feel like once I get to my back section, it is just hard to do. So don't beat yourself up if you don't do it completely perfect. Just do what you can. I really basically focus on my crown and on those hairline sides. If you're somebody who wears your hair, let's say in like braids a lot, where you're splitting it, go ahead and split down that middle, how I did, so that way you get a little bit more coverage. But the crown and the hairline are about as important of an area that you need to really worry about when doing it yourself. And then I definitely tend to take way thicker sections when doing my back. And again, if you don't get every single piece of hair, that is completely fine. Okay, so now that I have my back done, I'm just gonna come back through and take out these clips. You can also go back through and reapply a little bit on your hairline if you want. That way you're really making sure you're getting full coverage if you felt like maybe you didn't apply great the first time. So go back in and do the same exact steps, and then we're gonna get started on the highlights next. Okay, so now that I have my roots on, I'm gonna mix my lightener. I'm using Moroccan Oil's Blonde Voyage lightener. They recently just came out with a color line, and I am beyond obsessed with this lightener, and I haven't used it yet on myself, so I'm very excited. I'm going to be using 20 volume with this. Okay, so now that I have my roots on, it's time to start applying my lightener. I've got my lightener mixed up, and then I'm just gonna take the very top section of my hair, and I'm really only gonna be focusing on that because I wear my extensions. I don't really have to worry about the underneath getting any lightener on it because the extensions will create those lighter pieces, and then I'm just taking advantage of the fact that I don't need to highlight my sides as I'm letting them grow. So you would adjust this to wherever you part your hair. I part my hair mostly in the middle, sometimes on the side, so I'm basing it off of that. So I've just got to take my top section, and then I'm gonna start in the back. I try to bring it back towards my crown area, so that way when the hair is down, you see a little bit of coverage. And again, I'm gonna be doing just some baby lights, nothing crazy. I'm trying to keep my foils nice and thin. Okay, so we're just gonna be starting in the back, taking a section close to that crown, so when the hair falls backwards, you see it. And then remember, I'm doing more of a baby light, so I'm trying to keep my weaves nice and thin, almost see-through like. And then I'm gonna take my foil. I fold the foil down on the comb. I'm gonna lift my hair, place that in. And then I'm trying to just only focus it on my regrowth. And I'm gonna just paint that on very nicely. I'm not super concerned if I don't get quite all the way up to my root, just because I don't mind a little bit of a root look, and I'm not doing a ton of foils, so I'm not worried about it blending in or not blending in. Push the hair that's not lightened out of the way, and then fold my foil back up. And then I'm just gonna keep moving up my head. I'm trying to leave a decent amount of space between each foil, probably about an inch, I would say. So I'm gonna take my next place, pull this back, and then make a weave off of the hair that's in front of it. I just feel it's easier to weave with my hair kind of like this in front of my face. It's a little bit easier to see in the mirror. Still a challenge at times, but it's better than just trying to plop on the back side of my head. And if you want, you can even take a clip and push the hair that you're not foiling out of the way, so that way you can see a little bit better. So you wanna make sure that you're doing a nice baby weave. You want the tail of your highlighting comb to be up right at your scalp. It's gonna give you the most control. The further down you move on the section you're trying to weave, you're gonna end up with a thicker piece, and you're gonna lose that look of a baby light. So for the most control, put that tail of your comb all the way at your scalp. And then we're gonna take our next section. Again, I'm trying to leave about like ½ an inch to an inch in between each of these foils. If you want them closer together, just take less space, and if you want them further apart, simply make your section in between bigger. So I'll show you guys the difference between weaving all the way at the top of your root. If you weave further down, it's just a lot harder to get control, and your piece of hair gets a little too thick. That's why I like to keep it right up at the top of the scalp. You really get control to create the weave that you want. If you're wanting a thicker look, it's fine to start further down to weave that hair, but if you're liking it nice and subtle, keep it up top. And then as I get a little closer to the very front of my hair, I am gonna pack them in a little closer together just because I want not really a money piece per se, but just that extra brightness right along my face. So I'm gonna shorten the gap and do a couple more foils, still though doing a nice fine weave. So if you are opting to try to do your color and highlights at the same time, I normally use a 5 volume developer for my highlights, but because I need to break through that color, I upped it to 20, and I knew I wasn't pulling through, so I'm not worried about overlapping. So you don't want your developer to be stronger than what your hair can handle, but up your developer if you're doing your roots first and then putting the highlights on, just so it'll break through that color a little bit better than if it's too low, it's gonna have a harder time. It should be noted, I am certainly not advising you to throw like a 40 volume on your roots for highlighting. 20, at the most a 30, and I even sometimes still will add a little like 20 and 30 together to make it a 25 volume. It's better to maybe it take a little bit longer than you blast it out and your hair's fried. And we're just gonna take our last piece for my mohawk. I'm gonna split it in half one more time, just very slightly with my section, and weave. If you want your front hairline piece to be a little bit more bolder, you can switch to slicing if you'd like, or just do a thicker weave. And then we're just gonna clip this hair back. So I've got, let's see, 1, 6, 7, 8 foils. That's it, super easy. If you wanna take it a step further, you could put one in right on your side here to just help fill this in. I'm gonna leave it alone just because, like I said, with my extensions, I don't have to worry about it as much. But yeah. So nice, simple, and easy. It's not a lot of effort. I mean, it is a lot of effort, but it's definitely something that's very doable at home. So I'm just gonna process. I like to check my highlights every 7 to 10 minutes to make sure that they're not over processed, and then I will get my hair rinsed to show you guys what it looks like afterwards. Okay, so what I will do sometimes halfway through after I check my highlights, if they need to be a little bit brighter and sped up, I will use my blow dryer, and I just simply do it on a low speed setting, and we'll focus it just to give a little bit of extra heat. You can also put a cap on your head, but I like to just do a little bit of heat from my blow dryer. So my highlights have been on about 10-15 minutes, so I'm gonna take a peek. Okay, so I'm still gonna let mine process just a few more minutes, but they are almost there, and then I'm gonna get it rinsed and styled so you guys can see the finished result. I don't know yet if I'm gonna glaze it or not. Sometimes it all blends in together in the shampoo, so I will wait to see, and then we'll get to the final look. Okay, so my highlights are ready now to be rinsed, but what I like to do for the very last little bit, this is totally optional, I'm just doing it for a light refresher on my ends. What I like to do, put your gloves back on. If you still have your lightener out, you can surely use it, because after about 30 minutes, the lightener has really lost its potency, so I don't worry about putting too much stress on my ends. But I like to just take my foil, remove it, And I'll kind of just finger the bleach through my ends. And then you can use a little bit of that old bleach if you want to saturate a little bit more. And this just lightly refreshes those ends. And you can also kind of finger your root color into it a little bit if you're wanting to make a little bit rooty look, if you're paranoid about any lines. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that to all of the foils, let them sit for 5 minutes, and then do our final rinse. So we're gonna take our next foil out, finger that lightener down through, finger in at your root some if you want. So the fingering of the color onto the lightener is a little bit of a way to kind of do your own root shadow and just blend it and lightly smudge it in. And again, this is completely optional, this part. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. And we're just gonna finish off doing the same thing with the rest of these foils, and then I'm gonna rinse. Okay, so I've got my hair rinsed out. I did not use any sort of toner. I just kind of mushed my scalp a little bit when I was shampooing with the color to kind of work it through. I'm gonna be styling my hair with Moroccan Oil's Root Boost and their Volume Mousse, my beloved products. And then I am also going to be blow drying my hair with this new dryer I'm gonna be doing a review on in the next couple of weeks. Zuvi, it's a light that heats it instead of the regular motor of a blow dryer. So make sure to check that out in a few weeks. So I'm gonna get my hair dry and then we'll get to see the final look. Okay guys, so here we have our finished result. I'm so happy with how it came out. I love the amount of lightness I was able to give in just for a pop of color with those 8 foils along my top section. Again, I'm only doing right along my part line just because of the way my hair lays with extensions. I don't need to do any underneath, but if you do need to add some underneath, feel free and go ahead. Just do it in the same application that I was, where you're doing those finer weaves if you're wanting the baby lights. Thicken up the weaves or a slice even if you want to see a little bit more bold of a pop. Note for when you are pulling your foils out, you can go ahead and smush the color onto your root should you want to soften the line a little bit. And then I didn't tone my hair, I just kind of mush it in when I am shampooing, and that helps kind of distribute your root color through the ends. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any questions below in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer. Hopefully you guys were able to get some tips and tricks. It's a lot of work doing it yourself, but hopefully this was able to show you guys a better way to do it, and hopefully it's easier for you next time. So please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.